was 22 years old when this happened, back in late 2018. At that time, I was working part-time at a small convenience store and fuel station on the outskirts of a quiet suburban town called Riverton. It was just a temporary job while I figured out my next steps after college. The daytime shifts were busy with regular customers grabbing coffee, snacks, and lottery tickets. But the night shifts were completely different. They felt slower, lonelier, and somehow more exposed. The bright fluorescent lights inside made the darkness outside the large glass windows feel endless and watchful. That particular evening, I was assigned the closing shift alone. The store usually shut down at 11:30 p.m. Around 9 p.m., while I was restocking shelves, the landline at the counter started ringing. I picked it up casually, expecting a supplier or a wrong number. But the moment I said, "Hello, Riverton Fuel and Mart," a low, raspy voice came through. It sounded deliberately distorted, like someone trying to imitate a movie villain, slow, drawn out, and unnaturally calm. It immediately reminded me of those old horror film killers who call their victims. The voice asked, "Are you working by yourself tonight?" I paused for a second, then replied sarcastically, "Yeah, sure, you caught me." I hung up quickly, assuming it was one of my buddies pulling a stupid prank. I immediately opened our group chat and typed, "All right, which one of you idiots is calling the store pretending to be a psycho?" They all laughed it off at first, acting confused. One said he was at home watching a game, another sent a selfie from his couch. I laughed it off and went back to work. About 10 minutes later, the phone rang again, same voice. "Why did you hang up on me?" it asked. I gave the same sarcastic reply and hung up. This time, though, the voice let out a soft, almost genuine chuckle before the line went dead. It sent a small chill down my spine. Something about how composed and unhurried it sounded felt off. Still, I convinced myself it was just a bad joke. Customers kept coming in sporadically, people buying gas, energy drinks, and cigarettes, which helped distract me. But every time the store quieted down, my eyes kept drifting back to the phone. Around 10:35 p.m., it rang for the third time. I answered, and the voice said, "Does it always get this quiet around here so late?" That one hit harder. How would a random prank caller know the store was empty right then? I didn't reply and slammed the phone down. My annoyance was slowly turning into real unease. I texted my friends again, more seriously this time. They all denied it. One even called me from his real number. He sounded genuinely worried and confused. He suggested I lock the doors early if things felt wrong. I checked the security camera feeds. The store sat alone beside a mostly empty 2-lane road with a small wooded area behind it and a dumpster alley on one side. The night cameras were grainy with several blind spots, but I didn't see anyone lurking. Soon after, the calls became more frequent. I stopped answering after the 5th or 6th ring. The phone would go silent for a minute or two, then start again. During the pauses, I began noticing faint sounds outside, a light tap on the wall, a scrape near the side, footsteps on gravel near the back. At first, I told myself it was just animals or the wind, but the noises seemed too deliberate. Around 11:25 p.m., a final customer walked in. The door chime made me jump. He looked ordinary, mid-30s, clean clothes, nothing obviously strange, but his face was completely blank, almost emotionless. He didn't greet me. He wandered the aisles slowly, picking up random items and putting them back. I watched him discreetly through the mirrors and cameras. He kept glancing toward the counter, peeking over the shelves in a way that felt like he was checking on me rather than shopping. He spent nearly 10 minutes in the store before finally bringing a single pack of chips to the counter. He said nothing as I scanned it. When I looked up to take his payment, our eyes met directly. His stare was empty and intense. It felt like it lasted only a couple of seconds, but it felt much longer. No smile, no words, just that cold look. He paid in cash, took his item, and headed for the door. I started to relax, thinking I was overreacting because of the calls. but as he pushed the door open, he stopped halfway. Without turning his full body, he twisted his head back toward me. His chin was lowered, forcing his eyes to look up. Then he smiled, a slow, knowing smile that seemed to say he understood exactly how terrifying he looked and was enjoying it. Every hair on my arms stood up. He stepped outside, and instead of walking to a car or the pumps, he turned and walked along the side of the building, keeping his eyes on me through the glass as long as possible. I rushed to the camera monitor and followed his movement. He headed toward the wooded side and disappeared into a blind spot near the back. He never came out the other side. That was it for me. I locked the front door early. I texted my family and friends, telling them about the creepy customer and that if I stopped replying, something was probably wrong. I rushed through the bare minimum of closing duties, constantly checking the cameras. Midnight finally came. I grabbed my bag, turned off most of the lights, and prepared to leave. Stepping out and locking the door felt incredibly tense. My car was parked on the side of the building. I hurried toward it. Just as I reached the door and fumbled for my keys, I heard quick, purposeful footsteps coming from the front corner, not quite running, but moving fast. I spun around. It was him, the same man emerging from the shadows and heading straight towards me with that same eerie purpose.
I yanked the car door open so hard I nearly pulled the handle off and threw myself inside. My hands were shaking as I slammed the door shut and hit the lock button. The engine turned over on the first try, thank God. I didn't even bother with the seatbelt. I slammed the gear into reverse and floored it backward out of the parking spot. Gravel sprayed everywhere. In the rearview mirror, I saw him standing there under the bright security lights, completely still, just watching me drive away with that same unnerving half smile. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it might burst out of my chest. The whole drive back to my apartment, which was about 25 minutes away, I kept one eye on the road and the other on the mirrors. Every set of headlights behind me made my stomach drop. I was sending voice messages and texts non-stop to my friends and family, telling them exactly what had just happened. This wasn't a prank, I kept repeating. The guy was real. He came after me. When I finally got home, I parked right in front of my building instead of in my usual spot farther back. I sprinted inside, locked every lock on my door, and pushed a chair against it for good measure. I didn't sleep much that night. Every little sound in the apartment building, a neighbor's door closing, the fridge humming, made me sit up straight. I kept replaying the man's blank face and that deliberate smile in my head. The next morning, I called my manager, Mr. Harlan, and told him the whole story. He sounded skeptical at first, but said he would review the security footage. A few hours later, he called me back. His tone had changed. He sounded a little defensive. "Look, Alex," he said, "the guy on camera just looks like a normal customer to me. Maybe you got spooked by the phone calls and your mind connected things that weren't really connected." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was the one who had been there. I was the one who had seen the man disappear behind the building and then reappear running towards me. But Mr. Harlan didn't want any drama. He told me to take a couple of days off and that we could talk about my schedule later. I didn't go back to that job for over a week. When I finally did, I only agreed to day shifts. Even then, every time the phone rang after dark or a customer lingered too long in the aisles, my hands would start sweating. The creepy calls never happened again while I was there, but the memory of that night stuck with me like a shadow. That was just the first unsettling experience I had during my short time working nights. There were 3 more incidents over the next few months that made me swear off night shifts forever. Each one was different, but they all shared the same feeling, that deep, primal sense that something was watching you when you thought you were alone. The second story happened about 6 weeks later. By then, I had switched to mostly daytime hours, but one of my coworkers got sick and I got called in to cover a 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift at a different location, a 24-hour pharmacy and convenience store in the neighboring town of Oak Ridge. This place was busier than Riverton, but it still got quiet after 1 a.m. I had been on shift for about 3 hours when things started feeling strange. Around 1:45 a.m., a woman came in. She was in her late 30s, wearing a dark hoodie and jeans. Nothing unusual at first. She bought some cold medicine and a bottle of water, but as she was paying, she looked at me and said, "You're new here, aren't you?" I nodded politely. She smiled in a way that didn't reach her eyes. "Be careful tonight. They like the new ones." Then she left without another word. I shrugged it off as weird small talk, but 20 minutes later, the power flickered, just for a second. The lights dimmed, the fridges hummed down, and then everything came back on. I checked the breaker panel in the back. Nothing looked wrong. A few minutes after that, I heard footsteps in the aisle behind the counter. Slow, dragging footsteps. I grabbed a flashlight and went to check. No one was there. The store was empty except for me. Then the phone rang. Not the store phone, my personal cell phone, which was on silent in my pocket. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. A child's voice, a little girl, whispered, "Can you come play with me? I'm in the back room." My blood ran cold. There was no little girl in the store. I hung up immediately and checked the security cameras. All the aisles were clear. The back storage room was locked and empty. I called my manager on duty, he was at another location, and told him what was happening. He laughed it off and said sometimes kids prank call stores late at night. But I knew what I had heard. The voice had been too clear, too close. Around 3:30 a.m., the power flickered again, longer this time. When the lights came back, I noticed something on the floor near the entrance. A small, dirty child's shoe. One single shoe. It hadn't been there before. I didn't touch it. I just stared at it, feeling my skin crawl. Then I heard the dragging footsteps again, this time coming from the back room, even though the door was still locked. I backed away towards the front door, ready to run outside if I needed to. That's when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Why won't you play with me?" I left the store unlocked and sat in my car in the parking lot with the doors locked until the morning shift worker arrived. I never went back to Oak Ridge after that night.
I quit the Oak Ridge pharmacy job the very next day. My manager tried to convince me it was just kids messing around or a power surge playing tricks on my mind, but I knew better. That single child's shoe left on the floor and the text message were too real. I took a short break from night work altogether and focused on daytime hours at a small warehouse job in the industrial part of Riverton. It paid better and felt safer, until the third incident. This happened on a cold night in early February 2019. The warehouse operated 24/7 for shipping, and I got pulled into an overnight inventory shift because someone called in sick. I was working with 2 other guys, but they were assigned to the far end of the building. I was alone in the main storage area, counting boxes under dim overhead lights. The place was huge, rows and rows of tall metal shelves filled with electronics and auto parts. It echoed like a cave. Around 2:30 a.m., I started hearing faint music. Old-fashioned carnival music, like from a music box or a children's carousel. It was very soft at first, almost like it was coming from inside the walls. I walked up and down the aisles trying to find the source, but it seemed to move with me. When I stopped, it stopped. When I walked, it followed. I radioed the other 2 workers. They said they couldn't hear anything and joked that I was losing it from lack of sleep. I tried to ignore it and went back to counting. Then the music got louder and clearer, right behind me. I spun around fast. Nothing. But on the concrete floor, right where I had been standing a minute earlier, was a small red balloon. It hadn't been there before. It floated gently a few inches off the ground, as if someone had just let it go. My stomach twisted. I backed away slowly. The balloon followed me, drifting at the same pace. I turned and walked faster toward the lit office area. The balloon kept pace. When I finally reached the office and slammed the door shut, I looked through the window. The balloon was gone.
I sat there for almost an hour, heart racing, until one of the other workers came to check on me. I didn't tell him about the balloon. I just said I wasn't feeling well and needed fresh air. He covered for me while I stepped outside the loading dock to breathe. That's when I saw her. A woman was standing at the edge of the parking lot, under one of the tall sodium lights. She was wearing an old-fashioned white dress, the kind you see in antique photos. Her hair was long and dark, hanging over her face. She was completely still, facing the warehouse. I called out, "Ma'am, are you okay?" No answer. I took a few steps closer. She slowly lifted her head. Her face was pale, almost gray, and her eyes looked completely black in the yellow light. She smiled, the same kind of knowing, deliberate smile the man at the gas station had given me months earlier. I froze. Then she raised one hand and pointed directly at me. The carnival music started playing again, louder this time, coming from somewhere behind her in the darkness. I turned and ran back inside, locking the loading dock door. I told the other workers there was someone suspicious outside. We checked the cameras, but the footage showed nothing, just empty parking lot. The woman had vanished. After that night, I started having nightmares about balloons and carnival music. I requested a transfer back to pure daytime shifts and got it. But the fourth and final event, the one that made me quit night work for good, happened 2 months later at a different location. I had taken a part-time delivery job for a local courier service. One night, they were short-staffed and asked me to do a late run dropping off packages at a large office building downtown. The building was mostly empty after 8 p.m., but some companies worked late. I had to use the service elevator to the 12th floor. The elevator doors opened onto a dark hallway. Only a few emergency lights were on. I dropped the packages at the designated office and turned to leave. That's when I noticed the elevator was no longer on my floor. It had gone down by itself. I pressed the button and waited. When it finally came back up, the doors opened, but the inside was different. The walls were scratched, the light flickered, and there was a strong smell of damp earth. I hesitated but stepped in anyway. As soon as the doors closed, the elevator started going down, past the ground floor, into the basement levels that were supposed to be locked. It stopped at B3. The doors opened into complete darkness. I could hear water dripping and something moving. Slow, wet footsteps coming closer. I slammed the door closed button repeatedly. Just before the doors shut, I saw a silhouette in the darkness. Tall, thin, with arms that seemed too long. It was walking straight toward the elevator. The doors closed, and the elevator shot back up to the lobby. I ran out of that building without looking back, leaving my delivery scanner. The next morning, I called the courier company and quit. I told them I couldn't do any more night runs. They didn't ask many questions. Looking back now, years later, I still don't know what was happening during those months. Were these separate, random events, or was something following me from one job to another? All I know is that after the fourth incident, I never worked another night shift again. The pay wasn't worth the fear. These experiences taught me that some places feel wrong after dark, and some people, or things, wait for the world to empty out so they can come out and play.
Even after quitting the courier job, the feeling that something was not finished lingered. I tried to move on with my life, got a regular 9-to-5 office job, stayed away from anything involving night work, and avoided being alone in big empty buildings. But in the summer of 2019, an old friend asked me for a favor. He owned a small local bakery that supplied cafes around Riverton and needed someone reliable to do an overnight baking shift because his regular guy had broken his arm. It was only supposed to be for 2 weeks. The pay was good, and the bakery was in a safe, well-lit part of town. I agreed, thinking maybe enough time had passed and my earlier experiences were just bad luck. The bakery was called Midnight Flour, ironic given everything. It operated from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., so fresh bread and pastries would be ready for morning deliveries. I worked alongside 2 other bakers, but they handled the front ovens while I was mostly in the back mixing area and storage room. The place smelled amazing: yeast, sugar, and warm bread, which helped calm my nerves at first. The first few nights were peaceful. We joked around, played music, and the work kept me busy. But on the 5th night, things changed. Around 1:15 a.m., while I was alone in the large walk-in storage cooler pulling out bags of flour, the heavy metal door swung shut behind me by itself. I wasn't worried at first. These doors sometimes closed with a draft, but when I tried to push it open, it wouldn't budge. The handle was stuck. I banged on the door and shouted for my coworkers, but the thick, insulated walls swallowed my voice. The temperature inside was dropping fast. I could see my breath. That's when I heard whispering. Multiple voices, soft and overlapping, coming from the shelves behind me. They sounded like children again, the same little girl's voice from the pharmacy, but now there were several of them. "Come play. It's cold outside. Stay with us." I pressed my back against the door and kept hitting it with my fists. My phone had no signal inside the cooler. After what felt like 10 terrifying minutes, the door suddenly popped open. My coworker stood there looking confused. "Why did you lock yourself in, man?" he asked. I hadn't locked it. I told him the latch was old, but he just laughed and said the latch was old. I noticed something strange, though. On the floor of the cooler, right where I had been standing, were tiny, wet footprints, child-sized, leading toward the back shelves and then stopping abruptly. I finished that shift, but barely slept the next day. The whispering voices stayed in my head. On the 8th night, the real breaking point came. I was taking out the trash behind the bakery around 3 a.m. The back alley was narrow, lit by one flickering bulb. As I tossed the bags into the dumpster, I heard footsteps on the wet pavement. I turned and saw a figure standing at the end of the alley, the same tall, thin silhouette I had glimpsed in the office building elevator months earlier. Its arms hung too low, almost reaching its knees. It started walking towards me slowly, head tilted at an unnatural angle. I ran back inside, slammed the door and locked it. I told my coworkers there was someone suspicious in the alley. We checked the security camera, but once again, the footage showed only an empty alley, no figure, no movement. My coworkers started looking at me differently after that, like they thought I was imagining things or cracking under pressure. That same night, around 4:35 a.m., all the ovens turned off by themselves. The mixers stopped. The lights flickered and dimmed to a dull red emergency glow. In the sudden silence, the carnival music returned, the same eerie, distorted tune from the warehouse. It was coming from inside the bakery, near the front counter. I walked toward it slowly, holding a rolling pin like a weapon. On the glass display case, someone had written in the flour dust, "We missed you." The letters were childlike and shaky. I left the bakery immediately. I called my friend from the car and told him I couldn't come back. He was upset but didn't argue much after I described what had happened. I never set foot in that building again. After that final incident, I made a complete rule for myself. No more night shifts, no more working alone, and no more taking favors that put me in empty places after dark. I changed my phone number, moved to a new apartment on the other side of town, and focused on daytime work only. The experiences stopped. To this day, I still don't fully understand what was happening. Maybe it was a string of coincidences. Maybe something attached itself to me during that first night at the gas station and followed me from job to job. Or maybe certain people are more sensitive to these things, and the night shift simply opens doors that should stay closed. If you ever work late nights, trust your instincts. When the phone rings and no one should be calling, when a customer smiles in a way that feels wrong, when you hear music or whispers where there should be silence, don't wait to find out what it is. Leave. Some shifts don't end when the sun comes up. Some things follow you home.
Years have passed since those unsettling nights, but the memories remain sharp. I eventually settled into a stable daytime office job in customer support for a logistics company. No more warehouses, no more bakeries, no more gas stations after dark. Life felt normal again. Until last year, when an old colleague reached out with a seemingly harmless request. He was managing a new 24-hour self-service Mini-Mart on the edge of Oak Ridge and needed someone to train new staff for a few night shifts. The pay was excellent, and he promised I wouldn't be alone. Against my better judgment, I agreed to help for 1 week only. I told myself I had grown stronger, and those old fears were just stories from my younger days. The first 2 training nights went smoothly. The store was bright, modern, with plenty of cameras and 2 other employees present. On the 3rd night, however, the familiar unease returned. Around 2 a.m., while showing a new trainee how to restock the refrigerated section, the store phone rang. I picked it up. That same low, drawn-out voice from years ago at the Riverton fuel station greeted me. "Are you working alone again tonight?" I froze. The trainee looked at me strangely. I hung up without answering. When he asked who it was, I lied and said it was a wrong number. 10 minutes later, my personal phone vibrated. Unknown number. A child's voice whispered the same words I had heard before. "Come play with us. It's cold here." I powered off my phone immediately. The trainee stepped outside for a smoke break. I was alone at the counter when the power flickered. Once, twice. On the 3rd flicker, every screen in the store, security monitors, the digital menu board, even the cash register display showed the same message in blocky white letters. "We missed you, Alex." I grabbed my jacket and headed for the door. As I reached it, the automatic doors refused to open. I pushed the emergency exit bar, but nothing happened. Behind me, I heard the soft dragging of footsteps and the faint sound of carnival music playing from the back storage area. That same tall, thin silhouette appeared at the far end of the aisle, its 2 long arms swaying as it moved toward me. Panic took over. I smashed the glass on the emergency alarm and ran toward the back loading door. It opened. I sprinted across the parking lot to my car, not daring to look behind me. In the rear-view mirror as I sped away, I saw every light in the store turn blood red. I called my colleague the next morning and told him I was done. He didn't argue. He'd reviewed the footage and found nothing unusual. No messages on screens, no shadowy figure, just me panicking and running. He suggested I see someone professional. Maybe he was right. That was my final night shift. I haven't worked after sunset since. Looking back at all 5 experiences, the phone calls and the smiling man at the gas station, the child's voice and shoe at the pharmacy, the balloon and carnival music at the warehouse, the woman in white and the writing in flower at the bakery, and the final return at the Mini-Mart, I see a pattern. Whatever it was, it seemed to feed on isolation, fear, and the quiet hours when most people are asleep. It used familiar voices, familiar smiles, and familiar tricks to draw me in. I don't know if it was a ghost, a demon, a stalker with unnatural abilities, or something my mind created under stress. All I know is that some doors, once opened, are hard to close, and the night shift opens many such doors. If you are reading this and currently working nights, please be careful. Trust that heavy feeling in your stomach when something feels wrong. Lock the doors early if you must. Keep your phone charged and friends on speed dial. And if you hear music that shouldn't be playing or see a smile that doesn't belong to a human face, don't wait. Leave immediately. Some jobs pay in money. Others demand a much higher price. I hope my story helps someone avoid the fear I lived through. The night belongs to other things. We are only visitors.